Now, this poem is a poem that I typically finish with, and it does come late in the book because it's so draining. But this, too, would be probably even more in tone and in focus and seriousness, even more indebted to her. But it's just, it's a hard poem to read, but I'll read it. It's in a form, it's in 20 parts. It's called a Pichakucha, or Pikucha, but we won't even discuss that. We can talk about it later when we're signing books. But for now, I'm just gonna read it straight through, like one poem. Arbor for Butch, although it could be called Trees for Butch. And it's, I met my dad for the first time a few years ago, and sort of around that. Arbor for Butch. I am with my newborn son and the man blood says is my father in a shit motel. And if each of us is, as I sometimes believe, the room we inhabit, he is a bed used until it's stained. Even if I knew this first meeting was our last, I would have nothing to offer beyond the life I have made without him. In the far South, where history shades everything, there are people who fear trees. I once heard an old man say, I may be black as a crow, but I'm white inside. Nowhere else does the sky do what the sky does there, where the graves are filled with dirt the color of fire. We drank whiskey until we were drunk, as the couple in the photo my mother gave me to show him, the boy and girl swaying at the edge of my future. I watched my father curl on the bed like a leaf drained of its greening, as my child cried the way rain cries when it's changed to steam. Because I believe the tree is a symbol of everything, one of us was the bough reaching across the road. One of us was a door opening and closing in the darkness. One of us was a boat being carried downstream. My father and I sat in a motel room beside a highway where his pickup was the shade of a bruise beneath the glow of the vacancy sign, where he and his talk began to evaporate. We were two fathers watching the faces of two sons, where the evening passed as it arrived, where the rain comes long-toed and crushing the high grass, swamping the land, where a slave talked his children out of running away with the bottom of his shoe. This is what it means to believe in ascension and fear climbing. In the far South, where sap jewels the bark, and the trees and the teeth of the saws are sticky and bittersweet. But I wanted to carve a door out of the wood, and around that door, I wanted to build a room because I knew what my mother wished for. The arm of the boy falls around the girl as heavy as a branch in the photograph with the gloss that's been rubbed clean and the blurred inscription which nearly delivers its message before vanishing. I drove the long night to see the face my son and I wear like a mask, where history can be a downpour of joy or guilt spilling its wrong-headed desire all over the body, where a boy and girl fought in a motel bed to make me, one desire beating against another, where my mother seemed to blur, calling him her first lover even after she said she was raped. In the far South, my father, the first time I met him, said, God made nothing sweeter than pussy. We smoked our history. We drank to our future until each of us was a head of steam, clouds above each other's dreams. Where the plan was, when I saw him, to cut off his hands. Where, because of this man, my mother would want me dead, would want no limbs to branch inside her, no cluster of sound waiting in a drum, where she wanted to but could not shape her want into an axe. Sometimes my body is a guitar, a hole waiting in wood, wires trembling to sleep. to identify what you are, to be loved by what you identify. I thought, this is how the blood sings into the self. I thought what was hollow in me would be made into music. The first time I met my father, I believed I would understand the line connecting me to him, because a man rooted to his kin can never be a slave. But he was like the road, skid-marked and distant, like the rain breaking above ground and beating into it. In the far south, where as one man swung from a limb, he said, I may be black as this bark, but my heart is light. Where even when your lantern burns out, they say the flame lasts. Certain arrangements must be made if you want access to the past. With his room without rooms and his truck without gas, my father was a nail bent in the shaft of a hammer, a wound the length of a kiss. I am with the ones blood says are mine. And if each of us is, as I sometimes believe, little more than a bray of nostalgia, we are like the village mule chained to its muling. My father fit a slim, ragged hand over the head of my newborn son, and he said, he sounds like a white boy crying like that. What if blackness is a fad? Dear negritude, I live as you live, waiting to be better than I am. Before sleep last night, I thought how it would be to awaken with all the colors of this world turned inside out. And that was the name of my suffering. The story my father told me did not reveal one body inside another. The arms of the boy who would become my father embracing the girl who would become my mother. It did not hold the sentence rooted to the beginning of my life. I am not doing anything now, except waiting like the bird who uses the bones and feathers of other birds to build its nest. I am on my bed of leaves thinking about the past, how my father dragged his shadow across the room the way a storm drags its rain, where there were too many trees and too many names etched into the trunks, where the knots in the wood were the scars of old limbs, where to be reborn, the birch pine must be set aflame, where the door, if I opened it, might have revealed the lovemaking or the abuse still waiting to be named.